Alright, everybody, welcome to Full Throttle Podcast. This episode we'll be discussing the 30th anniversary of Black Moon Rising and the Wraith. Both cars are focused around experimental cars, I would say. A kit car, I don't know what you would call them. Maybe I should just do the introduction part. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm stupid. I don't know how to say words. And the co-creator of this show, my co-host, Ron. How's it going, Ron?
Rock and Ron! I'm doing good. And yourself?
Apparently, I'm having a stroke while trying to open this episode because I couldn't get a thought out. Dude, what are they called? They're not called experimental cars. What are they called? You know, when it's like
concepts.
Concept cars. Idiots. I drink too much. That's what my problem is. I'm just like sipping on some Jack for breakfast, and I was like, I don't
drink
need
the wrong stuff. Anyway.
Alright, so let's start off with Black Moon Rising, a John Carpenter production, something that I think he lost interest in, and got to deal with New World Pictures to produce 2 movies for them. He did this and the Philadelphia Experiment, and
love that movie.
Yeah, both are actually pretty good. I did not like Black Moon Rising the first time I saw it. I think my attention span is awful already, but when I was a kid, you cranked that up by 10. Like, I would not sit still for anything, and I think that I couldn't deal with, like, the slow noir feel of this.
I don't know, I really liked it. I was looking at the star ratings on it, and it said it didn't do, I don't know, it's kind of like a 50-50, but I really liked it.
Did you own
But maybe
this
that's
movie?
the kind of movie I'm into. No.
Okay, I must have borrowed it from someone else, because this is one of those titles. When New World Pictures went under, Star Maker ended up buying their entire catalog, and then you'd always find them at Kmart for like $2.99. And Star Maker ended up becoming Anchor Bay, which is a strong genre company now. But the one thing that always bugged me is once the VHS cycle ended, Star Maker became Anchor Bay, and they started doing these DVDs, and they would always do at least a couple decent special features. You know, have a commentary track or a making of. I mean, even for like some of the smallest movies they had in their catalog, there is nothing on this DVD. I've been wanting to know more about the history of this, and yet I can hardly find anything outside of like Wikipedia.
It sounds like we're at the boat I'm in. Trying to find anything on that car was ridiculously hard.
I think the director is still alive, and I feel like I should try and contact him just to get even like a small interview with him, because he did this. Did you ever see Malone with Burt Reynolds? The one where he's like in that small like mining town, and it's basically a western set in the 80s. He did that.
Can't say I have seen that one.
He did that one. He did an excellent movie called Pilgrim, which goes by a different title in America with Ray Liotta. I think it's called Inferno. And then he did Warlords of the 21st Century, which is like Mad Max, but on motorcycles. That's boiling down to like the most minute thing. But
we seen? Is that one of our movies from the high school days?
No, in fact, I never.
No.
You might.
It sounds very familiar. I might have seen it. But.
Yeah, you might have seen it, but I didn't get to see it until about 7 years ago because it's one of those that was out of print forever. Forever.
That's his stroke coming in there too. You might want to wipe that drool off. Sorry.
So Black Moon Rising. Here's the first thing that'll catch your attention: is Linda Hamilton's insane wig, which I didn't know was a wig at first. I'm like, what is going on? How did someone let her on set with this thing? It looks like she.
Part of me was thinking, well, it was the '80s, so my first impression is that it was a wig, but then I'm like, it is the '80s.
Yes.
They got away with a lot of weird things.
Lots of shoulder pads, lots of hairspray, lots of like that makeup doesn't work at all. That's not subtle in any way.
No.
This is like a quintessential 80s movie. I love movies where you watch them and they are a time capsule of when they were made. This is ideal mid-80s. You have the new wave electronica kind of soundtrack. You have the neon lights. The noir look started coming back, which I think basically we've seen the best of it in Die Hard, where they use shadows and light and stuff like that. Of course, like we said, the style. Tons of shoulder pads, hairspray. This is back when gangs would be of all colors. That's the weirdest thing. In the 80s, gangs were inclusive for everybody, and then all of a sudden in the 90s, it just turned into like, well, no, they're all one race now. It's like, that's no fair. I want to be in a gang.
Always wanted to be a Black Panther.
They always had like Mad Max kind of clothing too. Like there's like these huge spiky they're like football shoulder pads, but they have like little spikes on them. They have like little paint on their face. That was the '80s, people. If you really want to know, watch any of the Death Wish movies because that epitomizes what they thought gangs looked like. Right. And so basically, this boils down to the two stories colliding. Is Tommy Lee Jones is a thief hired to steal a computer disk. It ends up going into an experimental car, which is being worked on out in the desert with it's William Sanderson and there's a Richard Jekyll. You know, he used to be in all those old like 60s and 70s movies. He always used to be like the cop or the military guy. And the third guy played Billy the Kid in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Those three are the ones doing the experimental car. And basically,
he played Billy. Which one was that to play Billy the Kid?
He's the one that raced the car. He's the one with the blonde hair, the good-looking kid.
Okay.
And then William Sanderson is Larry from Newhart.
Right.
And Richard Jekyll's the older guy, basically running the whole show. So he puts the disc inside the experimental car, but the experimental car gets stolen. Actually, I guess there's three stories because then there's Linda Hamilton and her thief group, and they steal all these high-end cars. And there is a sequence where we see all the cars in one room. That must have made you drool.
A little bit.
I love scenes like that where they go into the sun, like in the Green Hornet movie when he's showing off all his cars and the camera's panning around to all of them. You're like, I'll take that one and that one, and you know what? I'll take all of them.
There's the only thing I did. Oh, the over-the-top FBI is Bubba Smith.
Well, I guess technically that's counted as acting.
There's just, I don't know. I guess everyone it's the movies. What can I say?
Yeah.
I guess the FBI, they're all jerks and they all, borderline criminals. No, I'm just kidding.
And Tommy Lee Jones ends up hiding the disc inside the experimental car. The car gets stolen by Linda Hamilton and her group. And then Tommy Lee Jones meets up with Linda Hamilton. She takes off that crazy-ass wig to reveal that her hair is still pretty 80s. It's still really poofy and sprayed up, so not much of a change. Just not like jaw on the floor like, what? And basically...
So her previous wig must have been really hollowed out.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, it's like as if they fitted over a football helmet first to make sure there was enough room. And basically they meet up, they get in a relationship, and then they go plan to steal the car back. And I think it's funny that the bad guy in Black Moon Rising, Nick Cassavetes, is also the bad guy in our second movie, The Wraith. Did you notice that?
Did I totally miss that?
Of course, the main villain is Robert Vaughn, who has this way of sticking out his jaw and his glossy hair and just seems so pretentious.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. I mean, he's not a huge part of it. I think he's in about 10 minutes of it. He's the one who runs over the deaf guy, and then he is the one that at the end that surrounds him, and Linda Hamilton shoots him in the head. I'm ruining the movie, everybody. Sorry.
Okay, you don't even have to watch it now.
It's actually part of a 6-pack called Guilty Pleasures collection, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, all right, so there's Soul Man, where C. Thomas Howell plays in blackface. Okay, that's definitely guilty. Reformed Schoolgirls, all right, that's guilty. Fraternity Vacation, I haven't seen it, but that sounds like a guilty pleasure. You know, it's just like a mixture of a bunch of crap, and then Black Moon Rising, which I don't think is really crappy. It's just of its time.
Right. It doesn't sound like it fits in with those other guilty pleasure movies.
Most of them are comedies. There's a couple of them. I think there's Night Patrol, some like Naked Gun style movie, and something else I can't remember. But
Naked Gun.
They should have fit this one with something else from their catalog. New World had done the Wanted Dead or Alive movie with Rutger Hauer. I think that would have been a better fit. Yeah,
definitely.
Or hell, just put it with the other John Carpenter movie he did with them, The Philadelphia Experiment. Both would have been a good double feature.
Right.
Now this
I'm going to have to dig that one out again soon.
Yeah, John Carpenter didn't do the music for this one, which surprises me. He just wrote it and produced it. I think at this time he was in the middle of Big Trouble in Little China, so I'm glad he chose that movie to do.
I watched this so long ago, I can't remember what the music was like, to be honest, because I'm so overtaken by the music from the Wraith. So
so you couldn't hear that when I was playing at the beginning of the episode?
Oh, I heard it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely love the style. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a few weeks since I watched it. So.
Yeah, Lalo Schifrin is the guy who did the music, and he's basically known for breaking out with Enter the Dragon, and then his career started to fall slowly downhill, and he started doing music for. There's a TV show that I absolutely adore, and I don't know if you'll remember this. It was called Danger Theater. It was a parody of like 70s action shows. It had The Searcher with Diedrich Bader, and then there was I think some One West Waikiki, I think what it was, with Adam West. It was just a play on like all these cheesy old TV shows, and he did the music for that. And then when I watched Rush Hour, he did the music for Rush Hour, but you hear themes from Danger Theater in the movie. So I was like, you lazy jerk. You could have thought of something new.
That's just it. You really listen close to a lot of composers out there, and I'm not knocking them down by any means, but you'll always find elements that they rehash. Danny Elfman, I love him to death, but he does a lot of the same things here and there, you know?
There are times when I'm like, this is a bridge that you stole from a movie from 8 years ago. You just reused it.
Right.
But then again, I'm not that creative musically at all, so I don't know how hard it is to come up. I mean, for good sake.
Exactly.
Okay, if you think
I
about
couldn't do it.
If you were to take the entire AC/DC catalog and crush it down, take out all the songs that have the word rock in it, hell, and you'd have 12 songs.
Well,
so I can't...
As a budding bass player, I have come to realize that most of AC/DC's repertoire is the same bass line. Maybe different speed here and there, but it's the same bass line. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Got off on a tangent there.
All right, so this movie didn't do that well. 6.5 million, but I think it found an audience on video. But still, the company that did this movie and a ton of other really great little movies during the 80s went out of business because they just didn't find the right niche. The only two movies they really had that were any hits were Hellraiser and House. And after that, they started spending a ton of money for some reason, like as like a last-ditch effort. They're like, we gotta do this! Go for the long haul! They did Heathers, which bombed. Meet the Applegates, about giant talking cockroaches, which of course bombed, because I don't see anybody going, yeah, I'm gonna pay to go see that. I'll spend the night. I'll get a babysitter. And The Punisher, which was god awful. The one they did with Dolph Lundgren ended up costing them everything and went straight to video.
Which cockroach one were you talking about?
Meet the Applegates.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Joe's Apartment or something.
Oh no, that bombed. That was a great movie. Welcome to Joe's
awesome.
Apartment. It's our apartment too. We've been here for 500,000 years and we'll be here long after you.
And that completes our musical portion of this.
Oh god, it's strange that I will never forget that. Okay, this is a side note real quick. Okay, so one of the guys that is in Joe's Apartment, he plays, Joe Shit or something like that. He has a really stupid name. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook, and I was talking to him about a TV show that you and I watched, and it was only on for a few months. We watched it freshman year of college, and do you remember Okie Dokie Ba? Do you remember there was a line in a TV show where he said "Okie dokie ba," and for some reason we thought that was hilarious, so we repeated that to each other for the next couple months. Nothing? Nothing?
I must have wiped that out of my mind.
Oh boy, that's bad. Because when I told him that, I go, "Oh yeah, that was from the first episode of the show you did." And he goes, "You're scaring me, Michael."
Awesome.
So, that's a
some of the things I bet he tried to wipe it from his mind too.
Do you remember
yes.
Okay, so you remember that. All right, that's from a different TV show. But all right, that was a tangent. All right, everybody. Anything you want to say about the vehicle from Black Moon Rising?
Well, I'm gonna let some people down on this one, I think, but I tried really hard, and if you know where I could find more information on this wedge, I would love to find it. Most I know is a designer named Bernard. I'm going to butcher this. Beaujardin?
Anytime you can't pronounce something, cough as you're saying it. That way you can get away with it.
Beaujardin. Okay. Okay, the most I gleaned from the interwebs was that it was powered by a VW Porsche 914 engine, and it was designed by Bernard Bouchard, and that's all I got. Now,
it sounds like a metal song. Bouchard. Sorry, guys. I was just cleaning my throat.
Cleaning my throat out. Okay, so to make up for my lack of information on that car, now, what's his name? Quint, Tommy Lee Jones's character. He did drive a '85 Dodge Daytona Turbo Z. In the vehicle. When he wasn't driving that thing, he was driving this thing. That car was, I can give you the information on it. From a little bit I know about it. Remember John in college?
Yes. The one that his dad ran a hotel or something like that?
So, no, John had the Probe. Yeah. I think it was Morton, actually, that had the Daytona.
You know what? You're right. I remember driving it.
I think so. Anyway, so you've driven it. I've driven it. It was a nice little car. This car was ahead of its time. It's one of the first cars, like back when GM and Ford were moving to, or was still in carbureted engines. Chrysler was making the move to some multi-port fuel injection and put more electronics type stuff in their car. In fact, this is one of the first cars that, although it was a little bit dumb, I think, because every time you open the car door with the key turned on, it would tell you that your door was ajar. What's up with that?
Ajar. No, it's not a store door. Your door is ajar. Your door is ajar. It was always a pleasant voice too. It was, your door is ajar. I always like, yo, right. Hey, pay attention to your door. It's open. Dummy.
Put your seatbelt on, dumbass. Anyway, well, yeah. So yeah, it led that. Believe it or not, this car was based off you know what the K cars are?
Are you talking kit
little
cars?
Short.
Oh.
No, K cars. Chrysler K cars.
No, I have no idea.
There's just this little short, stubby. Actually, if you watch in our next movie, a lot of the cop cars. Now they were various different models, so we won't go into that. But some of them were K cars. They were the shorter, wheel-based, squared-off body-looking things. Anyway, this car was based off of that ugly thing, and except that had a shorter wheelbase. At this time, the muscle cars that Chrysler was putting out were ridiculously priced, and the modern man or the normal man couldn't afford them. So they were trying to come out with something a little more sporty, and then enter the Daytona. And it was a pretty decent little car. You could get 22 miles per gallon, which was awesome in the 80s, and still got a little bit of performance under the hood. So, but that's about all I have in that. There's a lot of information I can give you, specs and what have you, but we got a long list of stuff for the next movie, so I'm going to move on.
The next movie is The Wraith. How long can I... You think people get tired if I just did that constantly? Sorry, everybody. My voice is back. It's absolutely amazing. Alright, our next movie is The Wraith. And I finally found... so, I gotta say, the soundtrack for The Wraith is not available. It's never been released, I guess. So, I just kind of looked around for it. I had to look for the individual tracks, you know, on people's albums, which I think is strange. There's a lot of movies from the 80s the soundtracks were never released. Not even on vinyl. I kind of get why Black Moon Rising wasn't released. It's back then, people weren't really into film scores unless it was John Williams. But, you know, this is when heavy metal was king, you know? People were really, like, digging this stuff. So you think that the company would have released it, but I'm going to guess it comes down to the fact that New Century, I think it's New Century Vista Film Corporation, they're a really low-budget company, so I don't think they had the money to license that, or no one cared because they hadn't heard of this, but I went and found it on Ozzy's album, and here we go, my favorite track from the movie. Alright, clearly we're going to be discussing The Wraith now. This is going to be the big chunk of the episode because I will say I can probably watch Black Moon Rising again, maybe like 10 years from now. But the Wraith is almost an annual thing now for me.
It's much more than an annual thing for me. So.
I didn't know that.
In fact, I believe. Well, I like this movie so much, and you knew that because you purchased for me at one point or another a poster.
I did. I don't even remember that.
Did. I don't have it hanging up because I want to frame it, but I want to.
Wait, did I buy it or did I find it at a video store? I feel like there was a video store in Vincennes that was. She said something about she was cleaning out the closet. She found like hundreds of movie posters, and we started giving them away like crazy. And we had like this huge stack of like 50 of them sitting in our room, and we're like, I've never even heard of any of these movies. Let's just throw them away or cut them up for art projects. What was I thinking? This movie's a problem. Those posters are probably worth like hundreds of dollars.
Okay, so I think this is actually where you got it. I think I ended up with a Tombstone poster as well.
Yeah.
And what was that one with Gene Hackman and it was a Western.
Oh, Quick and the Dead.
Quick and the Dead. I think I have that one too.
Yeah. I remember our dorm room was covered in posters. And
right.
I don't remember the Wraith being up there, but I remember, this being a really significant movie. We watched this, I think it was one of the very first movie parties, if not the first, because we went to Robert's house and we rented Highlander 2, Point Break, and The Wraith. And I don't think we ever got to watch Point Break. We waited till like the next night or whatever, and we just I think me and Robert just watched that. But I remember watching Highlander 2 thinking, this is amazing. As an adult, I was like, this is confusing. I don't understand what's going on.
I need to sit down and watch the Highlander movies again, because it's been probably since college that I've actually watched those.
Yeah, well, we have another podcast called Video Night where we do a series called Franchise Frenzy, where we discuss every single entry into a franchise. And I've been holding off on doing Highlander because I want to discuss it with you, because I think we went and saw like 3 of them in the theater together. And I thought that has to be the best person to do this with, because there's so much confusion with that series.
I so got to watch every one of them twice. We need to get on. There's ways of watching movies on your computer with someone somewhere else. We need to figure that out.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
If I had the proper internet. That's the biggest problem. I live in the sticks now, and I live at a place where we share the internet, that apparently the internet's from 1998. I kid you not, that there was a moment the other day where I saw the picture scrolling down. Do you remember that, like in 1998, 97, we first got like AOL, and you were like loading up a page, and like,
no.
Yep. That's what it turned into the other day, and I wanted to cry. I was like, I've gone back in time, but not the good way.
Your new favorite pastime is sitting there and making the noises, the old AOL dial-up? I'm sorry. I don't know where I went there for a second. Anyway.
All right, so The Wraith, if you haven't seen it, it's Charlie Sheen coming to town where there's basically like this gang that goes around muscling their way through, getting whatever they want. They've done some horrible things in the past. You don't know what it is yet. And they do these car chases, and they're always like kind of set up. You know, there's some angle they're working, so they can always get away with stealing the car, or winning the car, I guess, if you want to say. And there is a supernatural being coming through town taking vengeance on everybody. You know what? Who cares about spoilers? We know. This movie's like 30 years old. And
if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, stop listening, go watch it, then come back. Basically, Charlie Sheen is back from the dead as this Wraith. He's in a souped-up, like, RoboCop-style suit and the most badass car I've seen on film ever, and basically wipes out this entire gang. I thought it was funny that he never wiped out Clint Howard.
Well, I think he didn't know. True. Now, that being said, was Ron Howard attached to this project at all?
No.
I didn't think so. That's like, and I could be way off on this, but this is the first movie I've seen where he wasn't involved, where I've seen Clint.
Well, during the late 70s, early 80s, Clint Howard was actually something of a cult actor. He had gone through his rough phase growing up past Gentle Ben, which he was a household name because of that show.
Right.
But then he was in Rock and Roll High School. And, Ron Howard was very close to Roger Corman. And I think that he had cast Clint in one of his movies, like I think Grand Theft Auto. And so he was known in Roger Corman's house, and Roger Corman reuses a lot of the same actors. He just has to go through the audition process. Yeah. He knows what he's going to get. He can save time and money.
Definitely.
And we know Roger Corman's all about saving money. And so after Rock and Roll High School was a big hit, Clint Howard became kind of a thing. So he would show up in horror movies mostly, and, of course he would show up in his brother's movies. But at the time of the Wraith, he was still a viable thing to cast. He wasn't... I would say by the 90s, Definitely. He was a joke. People considered him kind of a, lowest common denominator cult actor. He still. I
always thought he had good chops.
He does. It's just the way he looks. I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, and that's. I wasn't meaning to imply that he couldn't do anything without Ron. I don't think I've seen anything of him without a Ron attached to it. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because if it wasn't for the way he looked, but then again, would he even be acting at all if he didn't look that way? He has a very particular style of acting and a look, and people go for that, but he always plays kind of off-the-wall kind of guys, goofballs.
Right.
And in this one, his wig...
What? Yeah.
His wig is epic. It's almost... I don't know, it's a contest between Linda Hamilton's wig and his wig to see which is the most outrageous.
I've been seeing what do I want to call it? I don't know, correlations, relations, whatever the heck you call it. Don't you hate it when you know a word and you want to sound smart?
Yeah, I do that all the time. I actually make up words. The flabbernabasimum of the hippobabble. You know what I'm saying.
Anyway, between the two movies, try the comparisons maybe. Anyway, and that was one of the things that popped out at me. Okay, we got the hair here, we got the hair here, we got it's the 80s. Okay, we got the 86 cars. We have the everything's Chrysler. I mean, what's going on here? But,
well, I like the poster for the Wraith because it's so misleading. On the front of it, you see Charlie Sheen with a girlfriend, but then the villain is behind him, like they're buddies. And then what it looks like John Cusack, I think that guy might be Asian, but he has a belly shirt. Do you remember belly shirts? Guys could get away with having cut-off shirts. Like it was that was normal. Now it's just like, what are you doing, dude? He looks such a dork.
That's Augie.
Is that Augie? Oh,
that's right. Augie. I never realized that. Okay, I got an interesting tidbit on that one.
We're always careful
we'll
when
get to
that word. Tidbit.
This movie showed a lot of. There were a lot of continuity errors in this movie that I would have never realized had I not read it on the internet and realized, oh yeah. It's like Augie in general, like the scene where he pulls up, it's his turn to race, right? Okay. So he pulls up and Packard runs up and gives him his little bro high five or whatever that is. Augie, as he walks away, Augie is taking his glasses off to put them down on a seat and put his helmet on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, what's his name? Skank comes up. And he gives him his little bro high five. And as he's looking into the car, he's got his glasses back on. And then the very next scene, he's got his helmet on. Like, there was a lot of film editing in this movie that just like things before they should have happened type of stuff. If you're really looking for it, but
yeah, I feel like this movie was a little bit longer than what we finally got. I think it felt like they cut about 15 minutes out of this movie. I feel like it was a little rushed.
Right.
They're like, kids today, they don't have any patience. Edit out anything.
Oh, interesting story on this. Okay, I'm probably ratting us out on this, but when we were in Vincennes, Robert, sorry for calling you out, bud.
Oh, boy.
He just got his Mustang. I don't know if it was the first one. I think it was his first one. It was the blue one with the white stripes. He came down and visited us a few times down there. And we were cruising town, and some guy comes up behind us, and he's got this like little, I don't know what brand, it was an S10 or a Ford Ranger or something like that, with stacks coming out of the truck bed. It's a freaking 4-cylinder. But anyway, so he flags us down, and we pull over, and we're talking. So I've got a guy down the road would like to race.
Was I with you?
I don't know if you were or not. I think no, you weren't. Dave was.
Okay. Because you know me, when it comes to cars, I have no balls when it comes to the car racing thing. I'm terrified. I was in a horrible car accident, and after that, I just got shy. I really got shy of it. In fact, I don't even drive anymore.
Right. Well, I say, okay, first of all, let me put a disclaimer here. I do not condone street racing whatsoever. I'm older now and wiser, know better. But when we drove down to this guy to talk with the guy, of course he wants, you want to race for money. He's like, no, I thought you just want to do it for fun. Okay. Well, we decided not to. We left, but we went to a back road, and because Robert just got this car, he doesn't have it, its ins and outs yet. So he wanted to practice. We come back, we do our race thing, and ended up losing, but only because Robert missed a gear. Sorry, Robert. If he'd have grabbed that gear, and like I said, he just got that car. If he'd have grabbed that gear, we'd have had him. But the guy had a Firebird. Okay, so Packard drove a Corvette, but the Firebird looked very similar except for the blown hood of the other guy's car on here. And this is the first one. When this all started happening, it was going down. This is the first movie I was thinking. I'm thinking, oh, crap, they're going to take us out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to... We're going to be left out there stranded without a car. Or worse. Anyway.
Yeah. After watching movies like this, I'm surprised you even did it. But we were young and we were tempted. I remember once, before the big car accident that I went through, me and Robert did race with somebody in Huntington. But after that, we're like... Nah, we're good. I remember just being the whole time going, stop! But
Dave didn't like it too much either. So.
Yeah,
because he's in the back seat.
I'm not an adrenaline junkie when it comes to that. If it's my own body, I'm fine. Where I'll do free running and jump over stuff and run into things, I'm fine.
Right.
We usually don't die from that. You'll break something maybe or get a concussion, but I don't know. I'm just the whole idea of destroying your car and being wrapped up and killed in the car just drives me insane.
Yeah, I said. Anymore, that was like the only time that I recall ever actually doing that on the road. Any other time, it's been under controlled circumstances.
Yeah.
So I don't condone street racing. Let me reiterate that.
We went to that car race. What town was that where there was a car racetrack that we would go to? You would just do
was it a drag strip?
Yeah,
it was Muncie.
Muncie, all right. Just curious. So the Wraith, like I've said, it was from a small company. These guys, I feel like they should have sold their movie to a bigger company because they actually had some good stuff. And they didn't have the finances to release these movies properly. The Wraith has excellent special effects. I mean, really good special effects. The explosions... Actually, I think there's one major explosion that was huge, but everything on a technical standpoint is amazing. So you can see that for a $2.5 million movie, which I'm not buying, that seems like it's way more than $2.5 million. You really get the goods. You get a good cast too. Most of these guys went on to other things, and if they didn't, they're still highly entertaining. The Skank and Gutter Boy are the two most entertaining things in this whole movie. They kill me. They are on another planet. Whatever they're working on, they must have like rehearsed together, like privately, and did this, or they're both just insane. Like in their normal life, it's just that bonkers.
Which one was that? David Sherrill, I think, played Skate. Yeah, this is one of his breakout performances, I think.
I don't.
This is what
else was he in?
Put him onto the scene.
Outside of this, I don't think.
You've seen him and didn't know it. I was looking that up earlier. You just have to look it up. I'm not going to try and find them all right now. But Major League 2, for one, to name one. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Was he one of Charlie Sheen's boys? Like one of his entourage? Is that why he got a lot of work?
He did. I think I read that he did 5 movies with Charlie Sheen.
Okay. I mean, it's part of his entourage. They're just really good friends. But man, those guys should have. Maybe that's why I don't recognize them, because they are so in character. I mean, to be fair, one has a mohawk and stuff all over his face, so it's kind of hard to tell what he looks like. And the other guy is so greasy. It's like oil is just pouring right off him. I don't want to do this. Yeah.
What? I know I've seen him in other things. I just haven't looked him up. Oh, yeah, he's been in, 25 credits.
What I think is funny is that Griffin O'Neill, who played Augie, and Chris Nash, They look like they were going to be the ones that would have broken out after this, and they only acted for a few years longer, and that was it. They just retired in the early 90s.
Yeah, some people get tired of it.
Yeah, I've heard the auditioning process is just a nightmare. There are certain things I don't do that I want to do because I'm a chicken, is go into acting or do stand-up. With acting, you have to spend hours and hours in a room waiting, competing with guys who look just like you. And you're basically going up going, please, like me enough, accept me. It's like dating. It's another thing that I have no taste for. I can't sit there and go through just please take me home with you. Please accept me in your life. And the other thing is stand-up. I cannot be up there by myself with like 80 people staring at me and trying to get them laugh, and then one of them go, get out the stage, idiot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what me. I was like, I guess I'm done. See ya.
Now as I'm looking through these names, I'm seeing Stephen Echolt. He was the guy in the Daytona at the beginning.
Yeah.
For like 5 seconds of the show.
He was on a lot of TV shows during the 90s. I think I saw his face a lot.
A lot. I'm seeing 85 credits on IMDb. I thought he looked very familiar to me. Yeah. You know, like I should know who he is, and I couldn't place anything. But
who is it that plays Jamie's brother? Because he was actually pretty good. Is that Billy?
Yeah, it's Billy Hankins. He's Matthew Berry.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good, but I've never seen him outside of this movie.
He is a casting director on a lot of movies. He does a few acting things,
gotcha.
But he's mostly... Well, I'll take that back. Let's see, interviewer. Nope. He's been in The Notebook, Alpha Dog, Rush Hour 2, Rush Hour.
So he still works, okay.
Con Air.
Yeah, and if you look at the main three, though, Sherilyn Fenn, of course, was the babe of the late 80s, early 90s. Still not too bad looking. I remember she was on a TV show where she dyed her hair, like, bleach blonde, and that was like, you just did the exact opposite of what everybody finds attractive about you. Some people like brunettes, and she just had it going. She had, like, an old style, like a 40s look to her, and I think that was really appealing.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it. I've never actually watched Twin Peaks, but apparently that was her, put her on the scene type of thing.
I knew she was in that, but I've never seen it either. It seemed like one of those things. I'm a weirdo. I like strange stuff, but for some reason, David Lynch's movies turn me off. I think his Dune is very confusing and frustrating. I think Blue Velvet is probably the only thing that I can sit through. Other than that, it's just bonkersville. I can't make heads or tails of anything that he's trying to say.
David Lynch did Dune?
Yeah, that's his big studio movie, and some people love it. I do not understand it. I prefer the miniseries, even though it's much, much lower budget. The one that was on Sci-Fi Channel is way better.
Yes, I saw that too, and I'm really upset that didn't take off and go farther or something.
Yeah, the second miniseries was even better. Better ratings, better budget, better cast, and for some reason Sci-Fi just said, nah.
I like the first Dune, I really do. Because I really love weird stuff, I guess, but...
Fear is a mind killer! I will face my fear and I will let it pass through me! I should say that just before I go on stage if I ever do stand-up.
And then everybody will stand up and walk out. Or they'll be Muad'Dib. Strangely intrigued.
Muad'Dib.
Muad'Dib. Yes. Oh, well.
Of course, this is that era, like we were saying, where heavy metal was huge. There is a movie that I always connect in my head that came out the same year, and which we both love, is Trick or Treat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You got Ozzy, you got Gene Simmons, you got, what is it, Fastway or Fastback? Do I have it wrong? Fastway?
Fastway.
Fastway. This is when, like, heavy metal was, like, almost mainstream, but there's still something rebellious about it. And then, of course, the next year is when heavy metal became, like not power metal, hair metal. It became really glam. And I just couldn't get into it anymore. I like late 70s to about 85, 86 heavy metal, where it's like Dio and Ozzy and Iron Maiden and stuff like that, where it had like sword and sorcery elements and kind of like a punk rock feel to it. Once it became about ballads and huge hairspray, I lost interest.
Men of War. Stand and fight! Sorry.
There is one. It's technically part of the hair metal era, which is Dawkins' Dream Warriors. That I can really get into. But for like the next 4 years, hair metal sucked. And then Warrant came out, and Uncle Tom's Cabin made me pay attention again. You're like,
Yep.
Something with some depth, not about party or poontang.
I must have been just a little bit out there or whatever. I don't know. I'm very eclectic, so I never stopped liking it.
Yeah. Well, but, I deep dived into alternative music once it came out. You were a little more hesitant. Some people were like, absolutely no. And then like every once in a while they'd be like, well, Candlebox is okay. I kind of like them. All right, I'll give them credit for that. House in Chains is pretty cool. But then other than that, like, oh, I hate alternative music. Oh, it's all about that song with the girl in the bee suit dancing around. The song about no rain. Wimps.
I could never really. I liked certain Nirvana songs, but I couldn't really get into him because he had that whiny voice that just grated on my nerves.
Looking back, I can't stand Smashing Pumpkins. I can't stand Nirvana, and I kind of like Pearl Jam still, but I came back. I started listening to Megadeth again and Metallica and Ozzy and stuff like that. So when I listened to this movie, I'm like, oh, that's a good track. Oh, man, that's a good track. That's a good track, too. What I think is funny is that one of the songs on here was written by Stan Bush, who did songs for another movie, which I'm about, when I get done with this podcast, I got another podcast scheduled where I'm going to be discussing the 30th anniversary of Transformers, the movie. And Stan Bush did that song, You Got the Touch. Bah, 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 bah. You got the power. I can't do falsetto like at all. It's I don't know why do I keep attempting it. It's horribly painful. Nick Cassavetes, the big villain in this. He played a villain 3 times in '86. We were talking Black Moon Rising, this, and another movie with James Remar, and I just had it in my head. We were just discussing it last night, and I totally forgot it till right when it's necessary. So forget it. Pretend I didn't say this. Nick Cassavetes would actually go on to be a really well-known director. He came this close to directing Iron Man.
Really?
Yep. When New Line Cinema had the rights, Nicolas Cage was attached to play Tony Stark. Nick Cassavetes was going to direct it. It just could not get together because at that time, of course, Nicolas Cage was much in demand, and it was hard to get it scheduled. And by the time it was ready to go, they realized their option with Marvel was up. So Nick Cassavetes was fired, Nick Cage was fired, and that's when Marvel took it over and we see what we see today. And I almost have to be thankful because when I heard his name, I was like, he's a good director for actors, but not with action. I think all he had done at the time was John Q. And that doesn't tell me that you can handle special effects.
Yeah, I don't know how he would have done, but Nick Cage.
Yeah. I like Nick Cage because he's bat crap insane. He isn't really, or he's completely disconnected. You ever notice that? It's never in the middle like a normal person. It's because I'm a treasure keeper, not a treasure hunter, or something like that. Or it's no, you're just screaming and yelling and.
Nice.
That was the worst. My friend Jacob can do the best Nicolas Cage impression. I'm not very good. I'm just really good. I discovered last night that if you start doing Mr. Howe from Gilligan's Island, that if you drop it a little bit and give it more southern twang, you can switch it around and eventually get to Nicolas Cage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's weird. I can do that sometimes. Like, I can go from George Bush, the first George Bush, and end up doing the voices from Underdog. I'll get that underdog. 1,000 points of light. I'll get that. You're literally just shifting the palate in your mouth.
Oh, wow.
All right, so let's get to the deets on the cars.
The deets on the cars. All I can say is Mopar, Mopars, and more Mopars. This movie was like a big, giant commercial for Chrysler, I think.
Yeah.
The opening, I thought it was really cool. The opening sequence, I didn't realize it until I went back in today because I was trying to pull together some more facts on the continuity issues. I wanted to check it out for myself. I'm looking at it at the intro. I'm like, no way. You see, it's built just like an 80s car commercial. I half expected him to say, coming soon. To a Chrysler dealer near you. Anyway. Only a little more rock, 80s rock type sound vibe to it. Anyway. On this list of cars, I'm not even going to we're talking about a 1965 Barracuda, a 70s Dodge Monaco, 86 Dodge 600s, 82 Plymouth Grand Furies, 86 and an 87. There's another continuity error. Dodge Daytona Turbo. The Daytona that's at the beginning, that the kid loses, the white one, it has dual headlights at the front.
Weird.
Like quad headlights, I guess you call them. But the car they're stripping later in the movie is the next year's model, which has the flip-up. The 87 model has the flip-up headlights. Continuity error. Now, it could possibly be another Daytona, who knows, but anyway. So there's that. There's the Shadow, the Lancer, the Plymouth Grand Fury, and the list just goes on indefinitely, probably. But the coup de grace, obviously, is the Dodge M4S. Stands for mid-engine, four-cylinder sports car. It was called the Turbo Interceptor, but a lot believe that it was only called that because of the movie. After the fact. Anywho, this car was actually developed to be an IndyCar pace car by PPG and Chrysler. It cost them about $1.5 million to make.
Woo!
There was only...
That's like most of the
I don't know if they had
movie.
other cars. Right. This car's one. There's only one of them. So they talked to Chrysler and they made a deal, whatever. They brought them over the molds with Chrysler representatives, of course, and the original car. And they made... Now, I got 5, I've got 6. I'm going to settle on 6 bodies. They made molds of 6 molds of the body. 4 of them were used for the more traumatic scenes, if you will.
Yeah, the explosion scenes.
Right. And then 2 were put on actual drivable chassis. Here's why I say, this is where the movie company's like, ha ha, Chrysler, thanks for your molds type of thing. But they're mounted on VW chassis or ran like ran by a VW engine. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to. Yeah, wow. I expected something a little bit stronger than that, but I guess if they're gonna destroy the car and blow it up, they just need it to run.
All right, those were for the racing scenes.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I guarantee none of them went over like 40 mile an hour.
Yeah,
probably.
you're right. Camera tricks, they can speed it up.
Although I've seen someplace where they said they swear that the speedometer on the Vet never went over 55, so they may have at least made it there.
Let's back up for a second. Did you notice how many scenes in Black Moon Rising were sped up?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's jittery. That's not normal. Okay, all right, hold on.
Well, if I had more... Well, they want to make it look like it's really, really fast, but the whole point behind the car was that it's supposed to be ran on water in the movie.
Yeah.
The actual thing is ran on water. I never said anything about... Although they did break a speed record, I guess, at the beginning opening scene. So, anyway. But speaking of speed, there's a video, and I'll... when we post this video, when we post this podcast on YouTube, we'll put a link up there, and but it's them doing the speed test on this car around their track and whatever. It's really cool. Not the movie people, obviously. It's PPG and Chrysler, but we'll put that on there for those who are interested. This car, okay, it's a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder, very reliable little engine for the 80s or mid 80s maybe, except for the occasional head gasket need to be replaced, but that's probably more from kids driving it like it's a big muscle car when it really isn't. But this particular 2.2 liter, where I lost my information there. Sorry,
okay.
0 to 60 time of 4.1 seconds in 0 to 60 time. Top speed of 195 mile an hour.
Wow.
Considering the top turbo would make about 224, and that was a in production turbo 2.2 liter. So 440 horsepower in a 4-cylinder. Now, granted, it had twin Garrett T25 turbos and a Cosworth built 16-valve twin cam head on it, and so this thing was tuned to the max. Obviously, there's more to it than just those, but Dang it, lost my thing again.
It's okay. My train of thought is all over the place. Most people notice this, so we're good.
That's it. Oh, okay. The creator, the guy who built it. Again, I lost it.
Yeah. While you look for that, let's just say this: Mike Marvin actually had a lot of potential. I thought he was going to be a great director. And I guess there was an accident. From the commentary track, he said there was an accident, and he was blamed for it. And then after that, no studio would hire him. The best he could do was a handful of, like, maybe TV episodes and a couple of really god-awful, no-budget, direct-to-video movies. And that's it. He had a lot of skill and talent. And because of one thing going wrong, he is never really going to work again.
What accident?
I haven't listened to the commentary track in a while. You have it on your disc. But he says towards the end of the movie that there was an awful accident. I believe the movie is dedicated to somebody, but there was an accident, and he was blamed for the death of one of their stunt drivers, and nobody would touch him after that.
Right. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, listen. You have the DVD. Listen to the commentary track. It's really
definitely.
It's painful listening to the end of it, talking about how things went wrong, and it's not like one of those purposeful accidents. Just something like a timing went wrong in the stunt. Someone got killed. People get killed in stunts all the time. It's a danger that they do for our entertainment. I still think it's insulting that there's no Oscar category for stunts.
For stunt drivers? Yes, definitely.
For makeup, but stunts, I mean, I don't understand why it is that they have their own separate award show. They should be included in the big show.
The unsung hero. How does it? Fall Guy words it? Where's Morton when we need him? Okay, the guy's name was Gene Winfield, and that's all I have on. He's pretty good. He's pretty well known in the car building circuit. So, anyway, that's all I have on that one.
All right. I think it's funny whenever we discuss something we think it's going to be shorter, but I hate rushing myself, but I do look at the time. It's 51 minutes. Time to wrap this up, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the show. We are now into year 2. I think actually the last episode is the first episode of year 2, but we started this back in January with, what was it, Airwolf was the first episode, and then we did Dukes of Hazzard, and there was a moment last summer where the episodes were not taking off. You know, we did the Magnum PI episode, the Miami Vice episode, and just, there was nothing there. And I was like, I don't know if I should continue doing the show, and thankfully, maybe it was just the subject matter or the timing. People have come back around for those episodes, and definitely supporting the new episodes. The last couple have done very well. So we will come back with the TV shows next time around, but I think after that, I think we only have like 2 more episodes with TV shows that are worth discussing. We had a list of like 12 more shows, but I was like, nah, no.
That's a 10-minute show right there.
No, like, I don't really want to talk about Renegade. It's like, yeah, he had long hair and a motorcycle. We're done. Moving on. So we're going to be discussing movies probably after that for the rest of the show, and then we're going to transition over to sci-fi shows. If you listen to the show normally, I keep warning you, like, I don't want you to be shocked, like, what the hell happened? And usually we have a theme song from the show or movie we're discussing, but I have been itching to play a song, which we'll play at the very end here, which I think is perfect theme song for our show. But check us out on Facebook under Full Throttle Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, saying, be excellent to each other. And my co-host, co-creator, Ron, send us out.
Send us out?
I don't know.
Hasta la vista. Keep the shiny side up.
Yes.
And remember, kids, no street racing is bad.
Yes. Keep it legal and keep it exciting. And here we go with the song that I've wanted to add as our theme song. But I know this band is really litigious, so I've never been like full up about it. So here we go. Let's not get sued.
Let's hear it.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.